welcome back. Hope you're having a good day. This is one of those cuttings that actually came out of that big bucket of cuttings that I have. It was one of the first ones that I kind of actually harvested, took out. I put it in this old pot here. I allowed it to get an escape root, and I actually kind of left it for a long time like that. I did, kind of prune back on the apex some here and there, but didn't really do anything other than just kind of let it thicken up some. And then in November, I cut the escape root off, or I pulled it up from the escape root spot that I had it in. I pulled it in and I made a video from it. I put wire on the 4 lowest branches here. And again, I'd like to just make a nice big wingspan out of it. It's got, when you guys, I'm going to repot it today. When we get a little bit of a closer look up, you'll see it's got plenty of nice little aerial roots in here. It hasn't really developed too many more since I did take that escape root off, which kind of contradicts one of my beliefs in that when a plant is pot bound, that's when the roots start dropping. And since I cut the root off, that actually should have made it more pot bound, but I don't know, we'll see. I did, in November, I actually did put it back out there and allowed it to get another escape root. I pulled it up a couple times since. I didn't really want it breaking the pot too much. And then I've also just cut back on the apex a little more and everything. I have 2 pots that are they're oblong and deep. They would be pretty good for the health of the tree, but then I'd have to pick 2 of these branches to try to keep their aerial roots on, because the other ones would be hanging out of the other side of the pot. And then I have a round one that's pretty shallow, and I might be able to constrict or keep the branches inside of that pot and allow them all to get the aerial roots. I love the aerial roots. I want to keep it a banyan tree. I'll wait and see what the root ball looks like when I get it up here, and in a few minutes I'm going to do some other work to it first. I'm going to take the wire off, prune mainly for taper, and then I'm also going to get some wire just on these upper branches. I won't put any down here. This wire's been on there since November. It's cutting in quite a bit. It will outgrow these, but again, I don't want to push my luck with it too much, so I'll leave the wire off the bottom branches for now. Alright, so I got the wire off there. Go ahead and prune it a little bit. This one, I was pretty happy that I got the movement all the way out to the end there. It does stick out quite a bit further than anything else. No taper through there either. So I'll go ahead and cut that back to the branch before that. And then go ahead and just eliminate all this straight up growth. After I get it repotted, just depending on how I feel and how many of these shoots kind of survive the repot, I'm sure some of them will get knocked off during the repot too. I may remove, I'm going to take a little off here right now, but I may remove just some of the older leaves. I do want to leave some of the growing tips. It's something I like to do when I repot, if I have them available. This one, like some of the other ones I've done, should have plenty of energy and would survive with or without the growing tips. At the same time, I think that does help it recover a lot quicker. This shoot here just kind of came straight off the old prune mark I had there and was just shooting straight out. I would like to point something out. I've been, this one, obviously I probably haven't pruned since November. Kind of comes out there with the big leaves. Where I said I have been cutting the apex back, you can see how small those leaves are. This thing sits out. I see a lot of people say, oh, well, be sure to keep your ficus out of the direct sun. This thing sits out in the most sun I could probably provide without just like sitting it like in the middle of my driveway out front or something. It gets plenty of these yellow leaves. On and off all the time. Here's some down here. I see a lot of people, they really panic when they see 1 or 2 yellow leaves and they think like, oh my gosh, my plant's dying. As long as you've got little, healthy ones coming out, I've never really given it much thought. That good strong sun will keep the leaves a lot smaller, the internodes a lot tighter. And then this one, I'm going to leave most everything on this one except for, well, that one's coming straight down. And then there's just a couple shoots that are coming straight up. When I took the escape root off, I've been trying to rotate it a little bit. Seems like this branch isn't quite as healthy as the other 3 lower ones that I have. As I look around at a front, I could consider taking that off one day and making that the front, but I was thinking of that being the front there and allowing that to just kind of stay. But we'll see, as time goes on, how this thing recovers. This, again, is a long shoot with no taper. I'm going to pop that thing off. This one's coming out right on the opposite side of this one. And then this one here, that's pointing almost straight down. And a couple of those were just a little long. I really didn't want to cut anything off that I was, just cutting the growing tips off, but I am going to leave a leaf there. Hopefully it doesn't give up on that branch. It's starting to get some, decent ramification on out there a little bit. And I think that's it for the lower branches. And then part of the reason, now that we're a little bit closer, you guys might be able to see a little bit better. Part of the reason I'm going to put wire up here is in these long shoots up here. At least get some movement in there. Maybe even be able to fill up some negative space. Then I've got this one, which unfortunately is on the same side. I wouldn't mind a branch here instead, but I think I've got time to go ahead and let this thicken up and take that bar branch from it over here off, especially since it's right on the same side as that one. And then I want to leave the apex. I might even be able to get a little more movement in that apex. But then I got these two branches coming off right here, and they're way too close together. So I'm going to go ahead and take the top one off. I want to get part of that knob off there too. A little bit of a knob left there, but being in the apex, that should get plenty of growth to kind of push that right on out. And up here, just a couple shoots off the top that I want to take out. Alright, I'm going to get set for the repot. Alright, and so we're ready for the repot here. I kind of forgot that I was going to get wire on this little skinny one here and this one. I put some on the apex as well. Didn't really do anything special with it, so I just kind of did it while the camera was off there. Just got a little movement in the apex and then just got a little wiggle in the other ones. Use this one as an anchor for that one. Let's see what these roots look like. I've gotten a couple looks at them. And also, like when I feel on the pot, I feel like the good strong taproot is probably on this side. Once I get the bulk of this off and get an idea of what I'm doing here, I'm probably going to run it outside and hit it with the garden hose. Need to get a smaller root hook than this thing. Hook on the end of it. I actually usually prefer to use my fingers and or just something a lot smaller. I think this, when I think I pulled this out of that, I knew there was something in there that was impeding my progress. I don't know if you guys can see this stuff dropping out here, but in my brilliant mind, I probably threw some of these lava rocks on the bottom of that pot to keep the potting soil from escaping. Better off it is. That might have been why it wasn't growing quite as well as I thought it was. I thought this was in pure potting soil. I didn't know there was all these lava rocks in here. All in all, probably wouldn't have been very good for the tree had I left it in there for another couple years. The way it is now, really isn't all that bad. Hopefully I'm able to save most, if not all, of these ale roots that have dropped in here. When I get it in this better pot and some better soil, I'd like to be able to leave it for a while. So I'd like to also untangle as many as possible today as well. Alright, let's see what we got here. 2 really big roots, a bunch of smaller ones. Alright, before I hit it with the garden hose, I'm going to cut these 2 bigger ones off. And then a couple of these are actually attached to the aerial roots. I figure I don't have to cut them off quite as short, so I can kind of place them once I get this and get the garden hose on there and get all that dense peat off there. I'm gonna go ahead and do that real quick. Alright, just take a minute here to show you guys the pot I picked. This is from a potter out on Sanibel. Nobody's famous or anything like that. She makes some decent looking stuff. Does have a little chip of the glaze missing there and there, but it is pretty good and solid. Got some good tie down holes. Got some feet, so wherever I set it at, it'll be able to drain out really well and everything. And then because it's got the tie down holes, I'm going to go ahead and tie the screen in. And that'll give me a couple other tie downs. What I'm probably going to do with this one is to go ahead and just tie the branches down. And again, once the thing gets pot bound, I can just take them off. I think in this pot it'll kind of have the look of being a little over potted for a little bit, but all the branches as I measured it out, the branches will hang over the edge just some, so at least it won't look so silly that way. Of course, the trunk is only about that big. I'm going to let it go, here for several months, and it should start looking a lot more in place. Deep enough to where it's got plenty of room to grow, but shallow enough to where it should be able to get pot bound in there pretty quick and perhaps start dropping some more aerial roots like my goal is. Alright, so I think all things considered, that actually worked out fairly well. Got some of the aerial roots untangled, got them straight down. And what I'm going to do is this branch already kind of comes down in swoops. I like the way it looks, but I don't want to make it any lower by accident or anything. I got this wire here and this wire here. I'm going to tie it to the other 2 branches, which are a little bit, quote unquote straighter, if you will. The pot, even though it's kind of got some, I don't know, more attractive side than others, it's round, so I'm not too worried about, say, like picking a front or anything like that. Try to get it in here high enough so that it looks good. And then even like this branch here that swoops down, the whole point is I did want it also low enough to perhaps start catching some aerial roots and keeping it Banyan style. I do have some of these cuttings that haven't developed any aerial roots at all, but then the ones that do have it, I would like to keep them, so. Alright, so that should just about do it. You can see here, for the wideness of the pot, the trunk is kind of small, but it should grow into it. If I get the Banyan style to kind of kick into overdrive there, it should start looking really cool. That's another possible front there. I did take off just a couple more branches and a few more leaves, just some of the bigger older leaves that I took off. I do think, that this humid time of year, I kind of wish I could put it just right back out in the sun and allow it to get some rain on it and everything. But I'm going to keep it in the shade at least for a week or two. And then I'm thinking probably in about a month, maybe 6 weeks, I'll be able to come in and just, I'll see some new growth, and I'll come in and I'll cut all the growing tips off. And then it should just explode with some back buds. And I'll let that go for quite a while, and then we'll come in and check up on it again. Thanks for watching.